Hey, Natasha, thank you so much for taking out the time to share your experience with other firm owners that might find themselves in the same boat you were in. But before we start, I'd love it if you could share where you're at in the country, what kind of firm you have, and how long you've had your firm.
I'm in Oklahoma, kind of like in the main metropolitan area. I am kind of like a boutique firm. I started it back in '07, and
Mhm.
it was kind of like a side hustle. And then it just kept growing and growing, and now it's my full-time gig.
Yeah. So, what were the biggest challenges in your firm before we met and you had reached out to us for help? Like, what were you struggling the most around the whole sales process or lack of when it comes to your pricing and your client load and how much money you had in the bank versus how many hours you were working? Like, share with us the lay of the land on where things were before we met.
I think for me, it was not a question of the revenue, it was the workload. The hours have just been really bad. Like the growth consistently kind of grew and grew, but the last year it had doubled almost in size, and I just couldn't get ahead of it. And so really just kind of on that brink of burnout and just trying to harness everything, like knowing that the work was there and I was doing good work, which was kind of garnishing like more leads, but just I was having no life and I was kind of losing the joy in the business. Like the things that I loved about it before were gone.
Yeah. And then your pricing was also part of the problem, right? You just
Yes,
kept
I had
growing.
not raised prices in a while, and I think I had just felt guilty, and I really should have raised them more like after COVID with all the inflation, and I just didn't. And it just I think they stayed kind of stagnant. And then that left me with kind of like the difficult clients. I mean, I had some really good clients, but I had some difficult ones too that were just what you call the PETA clients that like don't want to pay and they kind of kick the tires. That's what I still had a chunk of those kind of people that needed to kind of go away.
Yeah. So can you share with us that moment when you decided like enough is enough? Like you've lost the joy, you're stressed out. I think you're working 12, 14, or more hour days. You hadn't raised your prices. You just kept bringing in more people, more people. And then you're like, I can't keep going this way. Like, what was the moment you decided like you needed to reach out for help or you needed to change something? And how you thought like how this is a sales problem actually.
I think it's like when I had a realization that, at first I thought leaving the corporate job and focusing on my business was like the answer. And I remember taking that leap was really scary. And then I quickly realized, no, that wasn't the problem, like, because it just kept growing. So there was nothing to worry about with that. But I think just when I realized that I just was feeling the burnout, like I have a really high capacity for what I'm able to do. But
Yep.
even me hitting burnout means that's pretty bad because I was feeling it and I usually can grind and grind. But I think seeing that I was missing out on time with my kids and that I was working more just doing my business than I was working when I was working and doing mine kind of as like a side hustle. So it started to just feel completely overwhelming and it was impacting my relationships. So that's when I decided that something had to change. And honestly, for me, I needed more help with kind of like the boundaries. And I don't know that I trusted myself to do it, like to raise the prices where they needed to be and probably put the boundaries in place with the clients.
Yeah. So when you said, okay, I can't do this myself, I need to put boundaries in place, I need to raise my prices, I need to change a lot of things in my firm. What was your research like in figuring out that you needed to talk to us? What made you decide that you wanted to schedule that phone call with us and you're like, I just can't keep going the way I've been going?
I think it was from like seeing the different reviews and like testimonials that you had. Also, when I got my certification in the tax planning, you came and spoke and you were kind of handing out the pins that said like there's no such thing as as like quick questions. And so that kind of stuck with me.
Yeah.
Um, but I think it was just seeing the growth and realizing I was one person and just kind of seeing your testimonials and like the different reviews it felt like you guys would be more catered towards our industry, where I feel like some of the consultants, they just kind of blanket approach it and they just don't really understand like that a lot of accountants are guilty of this. Like it's not just me.
No.
We have usually like giver hearts and we just want to help people, but it's kind of at our own detriment.
100%. You're all the same in that role. I call them people pleasers, right?
Yes,
You have
all
big
people
hearts, you want
pleasers.
to help people, but you keep doing things for free at a discount, or even worse for you, not raising fees since COVID. And when you
Yeah.
were looking at all of our testimonials and all of our reviews and, looking back, was there ever a time where you thought, like, would this work for you? Because I think a lot of people might watch them, but they might think, oh, well, it worked for Natasha, but I just don't know how that would fit for me. What was some of your initial skepticisms or fears around that?
I think I was afraid, like, honestly, you had one review, or I mean, I don't really call it a review. It was like a Facebook post that somebody from your program had posted, and it like completely resonated with me. He had said, I joined the program and I was terrified that I was going to like walk off a building. I don't remember what exactly he said because I was going to lose all my clients.
Yep.
And he had said he had lost 43% of his clients, but doubled his revenue. And so I think seeing that, I could see like myself in that comment. Like I was so scared. I think because I'm a single mom, I had this fear, like I can't let my kids down. Like I have to make sure that they're taken care of. And so I think I just kept taking more and more on. But once I saw that, it was like, okay, maybe you can trust in this and it's not just all gonna fall apart.
Yeah. Yeah. And you did, you totally trusted in the process, even though it was so scary for you. I'd love it if you could share some of your wins and celebrations that you have experienced in just such a short amount of time in the last 8 weeks.
I think the huge thing for me, like in the whole thing, it's not just raising the prices, but even sending out the price increase letter and holding my ground was huge because I used to never have boundaries with people and I would just help them. And just putting that out there and being firm was probably a big step for me because the prices did go up quite a bit. I mean, I think I had raised my fees probably 50% on a lot of people. So it was pretty dramatic. And then the new clients are paying even more. And just the little wins of like people coming in and like people that I normally would have taken, but this time I held my ground and said, we can't answer any more questions unless you make a payment and sign your engagement letter. Because
Yeah.
people were just come in like, hey, we need this. And they were kind of complaining about the price. And I just said, this is how it is. We can't answer any more questions unless you make a payment
So
for
you
your tax return.
stopped doing work for free, you increased fees,
Yeah.
and you closed a couple advisory clients too, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I closed some tax plans and I probably charged about 3 times what I would have charged if it had been before.
Lovely. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
how do
So it
you
was pretty
feel
dramatic.
now looking back, Natasha? Like, how do you feel now that, you decided to trust the process? You kept pushing forward. You realize that, we only work with firm owners who are in tax, accounting, bookkeeping, CFO advisory. You executed all the homework, you did the work, you showed up to the calls, you've increased all of your tax prep by more than 50%, and then you closed tax plans at 3 times what you were charging in the past. How do you feel now looking back?
I feel a lot more confident. I think I needed kind of the hand holding. For me, it was so much more about it wasn't like I need the pipeline or the leads. It was more,
Yeah.
how do I feel confident and lean into this, like into the value? And I think like you guys kind of pushing me like just send the letters or I promise you're not going to lose all the clients. I think that was huge, but I think just doing it like just like believing in myself I think is what did it for me because it really wasn't as bad as I thought. Like the worst outcome that I expected was not what we're seeing. Like a lot of the people signed back up, so
Yeah.
I actually probably didn't lose enough.
See,
Maybe not, I
I
don't
always hear that. I always hear that every time. Oh gosh, that's so funny.
know.
Natasha, I'd love it if you could share what do you think and about your experience with the structure and the mechanics of our 8-week sales mastery coaching program. So for those who are also very structured, people pleasers and semi-introverted, and some are not, but other firm owners, how would you share your thoughts on the structure and the mechanics of our coaching program and maybe how it was unique and different than other programs that you've done in the past?
Well, it was definitely more collaborative, and I felt like there wasn't that pressure. Like you'd come to the calls, and it was nice, like seeing other people that were the same as you. Where normally when you talk to like business coaches, they just don't really know your industry the same way. And I always hate the comment, like it's always been a pet peeve of mine, but when I've done other like business groups, they're always just like, well, you're just so lucky you have the leads coming in. You're so blessed. And I'm like, that's it's like a different problem, guys. Like this is it's different and it's hard for them to understand because they're not around other accountants. But I think I will say the homework really was hard with everything I had going on. It was a big push. Not because it's been hard for me to deal with people emotionally. That's been my biggest strength with clients, I think, is just feeling their pain and like being able to like dig in and, help them solve that. But I think the trying to like the sales process as far as like holding firm and collecting payment up front, that was really difficult for me. But it was nice seeing other people go through it. So I knew I wasn't the only one.
Yes. Yeah. And you saw it worked. So then you
Yeah.
had more belief and more confidence the next sales meeting you had for a tax plan, which I think you
Yes, and I'm actually telling people no, you have to pay. I can't help you.
see.
Yeah.
Look at how that
Which in the
changed,
past
right?
I would have just done it.
Yeah.
So I've come a long way.
Come a long way in a very, very short amount of time. And I think,
Yes.
I'm super proud of everything you've done. What words of wisdom, Natasha, would you have with another firm owner listening to this right now? Someone who's really serious about taking their firm to the next level. Maybe they don't have any leads and they need to learn how to close because they've met with people and they're not getting the business. Or maybe they're like you, where they're just overflowing with just too much work and really need to get honed in on the boundaries and on the uh, pricing side so you can have less volume, higher quality clients, and a higher bank account. What would you share some words of wisdom before we wrap up to someone who's really serious about making these changes in their firm right now?
Well, I would say that, like the definition of insanity is like doing the same things that aren't working. And I think for me, like to tell them, if they're on the fence, obviously they're probably in a similar boat and you almost have to get into that uncomfortable position and you kind of have to push yourself into situations that are uncomfortable to make a breakthrough. And so you have to do the work. And I will say that lesson 4 was really tough for me. It was like the most challenging lesson of all of them. But if you get through it, I mean, that it really, you come out on the other side and you kind of have your like aha moment. And now I have the confidence to like the raise the prices and I don't have to take everybody. And it's just really made an impact for sure.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing, Natasha. Is there anything else you want to share that maybe you would have wanted to hear in one of these videos earlier on before we all had our call a couple months ago that you would love to share with other firm owners that maybe I just didn't ask you? Is there anything else you'd love to add before we wrap up today?
I mean, I think it's just like take the leap, because I honestly was terrified, and I'm pretty good at the sales part, but I think for us, I mean, I'm speaking for most accountants. I have no clue if they're all like that, but for me, it was just the confidence. Like hands down the confidence, like I just needed somebody to push me, so they might actually need that, and you sometimes don't realize that's what the problem is, but I think for a lot of us that is the problem, is probably the confidence to like take that step and not worry about everything falling apart.
Yes, for sure. Especially like you said, you have your families to take care of, you have teams, you have payroll to make. Some of you have rent, like you have fixed expenses and obligations in your lives that making these drastic changes can feel extremely scary. And what we do, and I like to share it, and maybe you can chime in on it, is hold your hand past that bridge of fear, past those
Yes.
scary moments. Like you said, the sales part was okay for you, but you weren't asking for payments up front. You weren't getting engagement letters. You didn't have any boundaries. So your sales process was pretty broken, right?
Yeah,
Like the
it
sales
was.
conversation might be okay, but now you've got that plus confidence and now you see these other results happening.
Yes. Yes. And it makes me think I probably missed out on a lot of income in the last like couple of years.
Oh, tons. I mean, just from your compliance work and all the meetings you've had,
Yeah.
now everything on the tax advisory side, you're 3x what you would have charged in the past. So you've missed out on all that revenue. But I think when you look at it and you can see that for yourself in the mirror, that's when change can happen. And I think, like you shared, it has to get kind of bad enough for you to want to make a change. And I think, like you said, you just kind of have to take the leap. There's never a good time. There's never a good time to do anything like this in life, I would say, except now, because the longer it waits, the more money you lose, the more hours you lose with your family, the more exhausted you are, right? The more burnt out you get. And then it can get ugly, right?
Yes.
Anxiety, depression, like it can
Yeah.
take a toll on mental health too.
Yeah, and like I said, my capacity is really high, so if I'm feeling burned out, it's pretty bad because I've been running on E for a while, but
Yeah.
I think that they just have to lean in and be in that uncomfortable space, but they
Yeah.
won't have any regrets.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Natasha, for taking out
Yeah,
the time
of
to
course.
share. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, of course.